The legend. The legend that was my dad, Patrick Callaghan, R.A.P. I will share a few funny glimpses with you and hope you enjoyed them as much as we did. Even our friends would be cracking up with laughter about the things he would say and be giving out about. He would mispronounce words and call, for example, Osama bin Laden, that bin Laden fella. So the first story, short story, is Shattering Glass. We were heading off for Dad's home place in Donegal with sambos and flasks all packed up in the boat. My brother John was in the front seat of the canary yellow Cortina. My best friend Rita sometimes came with us, and she was in the back with me. Dad was puffing away on his woodbines, and off we went in a haze of smoke. Everything was going to plan until a lorry passed us just outside Athlone. It sprayed the windscreen with stones, which broke the window, and there was shattering glass flying everywhere. It was like a spider's web with a small hole in the middle. Dad jumps out of the car like a fella on springs, shouting after the driver, who was completely oblivious to the shattering of the glass drama. Dad was still cursing, swearing, but being the legend that he was, he came up with a solution, as he thought. He grabbed his welding goggles out of the boot, tied an old jumper around his neck, and proceeded to make the hole in the shattered glass bigger so he could see out a bit better. Without a bother, he booted on through Athlone to Boy, Sligo, completely oblivious of us trying to duck and dive in order to avoid the shattering glass. This continued until we arrived to his home place in Ballyshannon, County Donegal. This was the only place Dad trusted to fix his beloved Cortina. He was as proud as punch when we got there. Now, the second short story I have again is about my father. It's the TV and the shelf. We had no television, and we were on and on, went cribbing to Dad until he finally gave in. This was not the norm for him. The day the TV arrived, Dad decided to install it himself and had it so high that it was almost touching the ceiling. I recall him saying, "No fecker would touch that TV in case it would break down." The only channel on TV was RTE1, but we were just so thrilled to have a telly, and that had cricks in our necks from gazing in amazement at the box. We loved Here's Lucy, Queen Acres, where Zaza Gabor didn't wash up the dishes and often flung them out the window. Another one of the innocent phases, I used to get all dressed up when Johnny McAvoy, the folk singer, was on TV. I was convinced he could see me through the TV and was singing all the love songs to me. I would spend hours glued to the TV watching him. Oh, the innocence. Well, up on that shelf the TV stayed for almost 40 years. When there was a current affairs programme on, Dad would be sitting there in his armchair telling them how things should be done while puffing away on the woodbines. Now, my next story is the trip to Rocky Bay. A day out to the seaside was always good old Rocky Bay because, coincidentally, there were no shops there. Rocky Bay was just rocks, cliffs and stony beach. So off we set, the three of us, as Monica, our baby sister, was at home with my mother. We had a bus roll ticket between us, and we were easily pleased. At first we were happy playing with it, but then the bickering started, which resulted in us arguing about who owned the famous bus roll. We were pulling and grabbing it from each other, whinging and moaning. The legend that was Dad had enough and roared at us, "Cut out the horseplay, or I will make a butcher shop of your horses." No polite request, just Dad saying it as he meant it. Needless to say, we continued to quietly poke one another, thinking that he could not see us. Big mistake. Dad could see us in the rear view mirror, so he turned around to give us a slap. No idle threats with the legend. However, as he turned around, the car mounted the ditch and turned over on its roof. All I remember is a few people gathering, getting a rope and turning us over. No checks for cuts or bruises, and on we went to Rocky Bay with the Ford Cortina completely intact without a mark in it. Jack produced a packet of custard cream biscuits. We were as happy as Larry, and the famous bus road ticket was forgotten about. Now, the other short story I have is a meal I cannot forget. My brother John was home from San Francisco for the first time in 20 years, as he had no green card. As a result of this, we were going to a meal in a gourmet restaurant. The restaurant had the wow factor. As you have probably realised by now, Ja the legend was very outspoken, coupled with this had a loud Donegal accent and was hard of hearing. Ja was very funny without meaning to be. My brother John bought us all champagne to celebrate his homecoming. Ja took a drink out of the glass and shouted out, "Who the F gave us the Andrews to drink? I hope you're not paying for that, son." Oh my God, at the time we were mortified and had our hands full trying to keep him quiet. That was some job. Yeah. So following on from this, a variety of starters came out. Ja made a dive for the oysters that were in the shells, and Wolf tried to wolf them down, shells and all. We were choking with laughter at the scene that followed. His false teeth fell out, and we were trying to get the shells out and gag him with the table napkins. That infamous meal will never be forgotten, and to this day makes everyone, including my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, laugh out loud. Now, the unlikely Rory Gallagher fan. Before I write the account of Ja the legend, I need to clarify that he hated loud music, didn't know one word of Rory Gallagher's songs or anything about him, giving it socks on his guitar. However, Ja got to hear that Rory was born in Ballyshannon, County Donegal, where he was from himself, and bingo, he was suddenly Rory Gallagher's biggest fan. When the famous and talented musician passed away in June 1995, Ja the legend decided he would be chief mourner at the funeral. Off he went in the little blue Ford Fiesta, planted himself at the graveside right beside the Dubliners and other famous musicians who were at the funeral. The mourners were all sympathising with Ja. He would tell the stories for years after, totally chuffed with his claim to fame. The unlikely Rory Gallagher fan used to visit the musician's grave when visiting my mother's grave. I think of Rory's song, "Going to My Hometown," when I think of Ja, and I know they are both in their hometown in heaven now. So conclusion, Ja the legend passed away in the early hours of St. Stephen's Day 2013, which quite fittingly was his favourite day of the year. He died in the presence of his children and grandchildren, and we sang the hymn, "Hail Glorious St. Patrick," when Ja the legend passed away. His memory lives on through his 4 beloved children, his 13 grandchildren, treasured great-grandson, and beautiful 7 great-grandchildren he never got to meet. We see his different traits and mannerisms in all of the little angels, and we will continue to tell stories of Ja the legend so that his memory will live on forever. As another legend, Babe Ruth famous quoted, "Heroes get remembered, but legends never die." So that's it now.